Draft 4.0. I am Field Yates. I'm joined in studio by the great Mike Tannenbaum, longtime NFL general manager. And of course, we have two gentlemen joining us, one of which authored this mock draft, Mel Kiper Jr., another of which has all the comments about the mock draft that dropped just this morning. That is Matt Miller. We are just 8 days away from the draft. As we mentioned, Mel's latest mock draft is out. It's a two-rounder as well. Here is the entirety of the first round. Mel, the least surprising pick of all 64 is what the Raiders do at number 1.
Yeah, that's the easiest one, maybe the only one we get right? Fernando Mendoza going to the Raiders, obviously trying to surround him by the right kind of talent that you need. And then the second pick is when it really gets interesting. What do the Jets do? We know Mendoza's been locked into one for 3 months. They've had a lot of time to think this over and decide what they want to do. Aaron Glenn's got to win football games, right? So you get David Bailey coming off the edge with all those sacks, 8 forced fumbles over the last 2 years, or you go with Arvell Reese, who's got that ability to be an off-ball linebacker and maybe a great edge rusher. But with Bailey, you know what you're getting as an edge rusher. With Reese, you're projecting that he's going to become maybe Micah Parsons in the NFL and be a double-digit sack guy. He's not going to be a really good off-ball linebacker, so have some versatility, maybe a fallback plan with Arvell. Tennessee has a lot of options. If Reese goes 3 and Bailey goes 2, then Tennessee's looking at an opportunity here to get Sonny Styles. They're able to get Jeremiah Love. Arvell Reese is already gone. So now you look at Jeremiah Love and what he can do with the Tennessee Titans, with the defensive players off the board. Tennessee can go offense. I know Sonny Styles is going to be interesting, but Jeremiah Love brings such impactful ability to this football team that I think that's the only way you can go with Cam Ward. Try to get him to that franchise level, which he showed he could become. I think Jeremiah Love, to me, guys, is the second or first best player overall in this draft. I have number 2. Some have him number 1. I think Matt Miller has him number 1. Matt, you can speak to that, but I think when you get the best player in the draft or second best player at 4, that's what you're looking for. You don't want to get the 6th, 7th, 8th best player. You want to get a guy inside your top 4. And Jeremiah Love is much more than a great running back. He can be a heck of a weapon as a receiver and a guy who is a true game breaker supreme and can change that scoreboard. Like I said, make things better for Cam Ward and get Cam Ward to a level where he maybe becomes one of the elite signal callers in the NFL.
Mel, well done by you right there. Grab yourself a glass of water real quick as Matt, I turn to you now. Of course, you love Jeremiah Love. You have him as the number 1 player on your board. He has been a recent popular pick for the Titans in mock drafts. What do you think about that fit there?
I remember 12-year-old Matt Miller sitting home watching the draft, taking notes when Mel Kiper said, don't take running backs in the first round. Remember, whose rule is that? He's like, it's my rule. Here we are, Jeremiah Love, number 4. I love that we've gone full circle because this is the right pick for the Tennessee Titans. He is the best player in this draft. He's a difference maker as a rusher, as a receiver, a tone setter for this offense. You're bringing in Brian Dable, who had Saquon Barkley in his past. You want someone who has being the dual threat that he is, being the downfield thrower that he is. You're going to get safeties out of the box. That's when Jeremiah Love can make such a big difference as an inside-outside runner, as a receiver, not just on swing passes and screen games. We saw against Arkansas last year, Notre Dame's actually putting him out in the slot, letting him make plays as a true wide receiver, guys. I do think he's the best player in the class, and I think this is the right spot for Tennessee to build an offense that can compete in what's quietly become a really good AFC South.
Guys, I love Love, but my first draft running the New York Jets, we took the Brickashaw Ferguson at 4 and Nick Mangold at 29. We had lost 2 quarterbacks in 7 snaps the year before, and I didn't care if John Elway was in the draft. Guys, Cam Ward was sacked 55 times. Dan Moore did not work out. We're taking C.C. Maioga, and here's why. If Cam Ward can't stand upright, it doesn't matter if Jeremiah Love runs 4-2 or 4-1. We have to protect his blind side. I think he'd go from the right to the left or maybe move J.C. Latham. But if we don't address this offensive line, nothing else matters for Cam Ward's development. And while Love is a fantastic player, there's undeniable talent there. The offensive line is a must. The running back is a nice to have.
That was just fantastic. That was some vintage stuff right there, Mike T. 2 quarterbacks in 7 snaps? My goodness gracious, you must have been losing all sorts of sleep. All right, so Mel, the Giants pick at number 5, next up, following the Titans pick of Jeremiah Love. That's your selection. Mike T would have gone a different direction. But now that we're back on track here with your mock, who are the Giants taking in the first pick of the John Harbaugh era?
What do you think about John Harbaugh? He's brought some Ravens to the Giants, right? He'd like to bring Kyle Hamilton there, right? Because we know what Kyle Hamilton can do as one of the best defensive players in the league. Well, he gets a guy in Caleb Downs who can be utilized like Kyle Hamilton was, that versatile piece in that secondary, and that great leader, that great culture that he's going to bring of winning at Alabama, winning at Ohio State. Caleb Downs, the bloodlines, his dad, Gary, his brother, all about football. And certainly in today's game, he's not just a safety, he's a do-it-all defensive back who can impact the game in so many ways. I think John Harbaugh, knowing and seeing that, hey, he stole Kyle Hamilton at 14. Why? Because he ran a 4.59, he had that injury. Bottom line is, he knows how to utilize these guys. He knows what his defense coordinator can do. I think it makes sense that Caleb Downs goes 5 overall to the New York Giants for that exact reason.
All right, Mike T has a grin right now. The Giants have a lot of holes to fill in this roster. That's why they're picking 5th overall. Do you agree with the idea of taking Caleb Downs?
I don't. Caleb Downs is a really good player, but guys, at 2 o'clock East Coast time, at top of SportsCenter, there's this really smart guy named Mel Kiper who is raving about Sonny Styles, Mel. I am using your own testimony against you. How can the Giants, I mean, after everything you said about how great Sonny Styles are, that's exactly who John Harbaugh and the Giants should take.
Okay.
He is a rare player, as you mentioned, Mel, just given his size, his length. And when you talk to quarterbacks over the years and you see so much zone defense playing now, the length of Sonny Styles is going to create a lot of inaccurate throws in the middle of the field above and beyond his own production. So, again, taking nothing away from Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles' athleticism as a former safety and of this Giant defense for John Harbaugh for the next decade. And, Mel, you have to agree with me because I am quoting you as my source.
Yeah,
well,
I think you both are onto something here, but I will.
Mike, I mean, yeah. No, I think you're underrating Caleb Downs. And Matt, you can step in because I just think when you look at what Caleb can do, just bringing that culture change. And by the way, Mike, you fought me on Sonny Styles. And we got a trade coming up, so you fought me on that. You said, no, don't take Styles there. Say, I want to look at the Giants and say, okay, who can change the attitude, the approach? And John Harbaugh knows what he can do. To me, that's, Matt, there's no question that it's Caleb Downs if it rolls this way.
Yeah, I agree. Let's remember, they signed Tremaine Edmonds to a $12 million contract. So they have that player very similar to Sonny Styles with that long, athletic player in the middle of the field. I think John Harbaugh goes and gets his Ed Reed. He gets his Kyle Hamilton. This is where all the intel points. A week out of us all being in Pittsburgh for the draft, everyone I talk to around the league says Caleb Downs at 5, Caleb Downs at 5. We've heard so many players connected to the Giants here, whether it's CeCe Maui-Noah, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Love. I think the information as we get closer is that the coaches in New York absolutely love Carnell Tate. The coaches are getting involved now, guys. It's not just the general managers and scouts. Once the coaches see who Caleb Downs is, he's becoming a favorite in that room.
Okay, so we could make this, by the way, like a courtroom-style show between Mike T and Mel based off how he has reacted to the picks so far. I can't wait to see what his reaction is to this trade as we have, yes, that's right, breaking news straight from the phone of Adam Schefter. We've got a mock draft trade alert. Mel, you have the Cowboys trading up with the Browns. Dallas would receive picks 6 and 39 in exchange for both of their first-rounders at 12 and 20. This would give the Browns 3 first-round picks. So who is this splash trade made for? Mel, tell us.
Made for Sonny Styles. Mike just talked about what a great player he is. Mike's going to rip my trade here, by the way. I think I got a little head start on that a few hours ago. But Mike doesn't like the Sonny Styles trade here to the Dallas Cowboys. I say, why not? You just sold me on everything. Sold everybody on Sonny Styles. Why let him be glad he's going to the Giants and not happy he's going to the Dallas Cowboys in that division? I think when you look at Dallas, defensive-like, right? We know they can score points with Dak and all his friends. Bottom line is they can't stop anybody. And they need a centerpiece. As you said, Mike, Sonny Styles is exactly that guy. Rare talent, impactful player. To me, the transition he made from safety to linebacker was seamless after he obviously cut down on his missed tackles, as Young Fielding's been telling me all year. So when you look at Sonny Styles, to be productive, outproduce Arvell Reese by 13 tackles, then test the way it is. If I'm Dallas, I'm not getting that impactful player at 12. I'm going to go up and get Sonny Styles.
I'm going to let Mike T bark in just a minute. But, Matt, what are your thoughts on this trade here from the Cowboys' perspective?
I'm just going to sit back and let the guys go at it. But I do love Sonny Styles. I do love him going to Dallas. There's a lot to give up for a linebacker. 12 and 20 for 6 and 39. That's rich. You better be Fred Warner, which coincidentally is exactly who I comped Sonny Styles to. So he has to live up to that pedigree to be an all-pro if you're giving up this value for him. And something that doesn't get talked about enough, guys, 2024, Sonny Styles had 6 sacks. And they didn't ask him to do that a lot this year because they had Arvell Reese. They had a great defensive line, but into the dirt full time. But what he can do coming off the edge, we know about the background at safety. We know what he did at off-ball backer, leading the team in tackles, but there is third down potential for him to be a great blitzer as well.
I love Styles. I hate the trade. The Dallas Cowboys are not one player away. They're not. I wish they were. Sonny Styles would be the outcome determinative piece of a team that was close to winning. But this is a team that was bad at all 3 levels, and even though they're going to add Rashawn Gary and Quinnen Williams this past offseason, there's a lot more work to do. My suggestion at 12 was possibly Mansour Delane. I know you don't think he'll be there, Mel, but get a corner there. And then at 20, go get a pass rusher. Maybe it's Zion Young. Maybe it's Akeem Messidor. But to me, this is a team that needs help at all 3 levels. So this is not about Sonny Styles. This is about how do we maximize the value. And right now, if the Cowboys stay where they are, they go from 20 all the way down to 92. It's a long way to go. I don't like 39 either because I think really this draft falls off around 25 in my opinion.
Okay, good to see 11 minutes in that Mike T and Mel agree on absolutely nothing. Let's get to the Brown side of this
I quoted Mel about how smart he was.
Yeah, well, he's a smart man. Look at how the Browns end up using their 3 first-round picks. Tell us more, Mel.
Well, I love what the Browns did because Caden Proctor at 6 is too high. But Caden Proctor at 12, left tackle, all that talent at 6'7", 352 pounds, makes sense for a team that needs that left tackle, right? So you get a hole filler, help Shador out or Deshaun Watson. Bottom line is then you add to this arsenal, you get a receiver in Denzel Boston, who is a big target. And guess what Denzel Boston does? We talked about Carnell Tate doing it as well. Catches the football when it's thrown his way. He also had 20 touchdown receptions, so great red zone threat thrown up and he'll catch it. And then you get the corner, Jermod McCoy, coming off that knee. We'll see how everything goes there. But certainly before the injury, before that year of inactivity, he was viewed as a guaranteed top 10 pick. That's why, because of that injury, Mike, and not playing, that's why Mansour Delane is going to be long gone by 12. He may go 10 to Cincinnati, and Dallas couldn't get him. So that's the rationale behind moving up for Dallas. But for Cleveland, to get that haul, Proctor, Boston, and then McCoy, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns to do exactly that because Proctor at 6 is too rich for me.
Mike T, recent history suggests you probably hate this deal for the Browns, but I must ask your thoughts. What do you make of it?
No, I do like it for the Browns because they need so many, pieces. You go receiver, offensive line. I like where Mel's going. My only concern, guys, just to take you into a draft room this time of year, like you're checking boxes, security, medical, and I've been in situations where coaches, staff, have been reticent to draft a player that didn't play last year. I think Jermod McCoy is going to be a good player. I think his talent is undeniable. But when he doesn't play, that will hurt him in terms of a tiebreaker, certainly with Mansour Delane. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was possibly even the 3rd corner, given the fact that he didn't play this year.
Yeah, we'll see how that corner group shakes out. I think for the Browns, though, this is a team that eventually can have stick and pick. Last year, out of the number 2 overall spot, it looks like that's probably worked out for them. They had a good draft last year. But the blue chip players in Cleveland, you have Myles Garrett, Carson Schweshinger, looks like he's going to be one. But this is a team that eventually needs to use these early picks to get great players. We're talking about all these teams that want to trade up to take Sonny Styles, or we talk about Reuben Bain being on the board. All the receivers are on the board. All the corners are on the board. So I think for Cleveland, eventually, guys, I know the numbers are telling you to trade back and accumulate more picks, but eventually great players live at the top of the draft, and great players dictate wins and losses. I think ultimately we're going to have to see Cleveland make a pick in the top 10, guys.
Well, it would be awesome for the drama of it all to have another big trade up. The Browns, of course, were involved with that trade down from 2 to 5. We'll see if lightning strikes twice. Let's go with the Commanders at 7 first. What do you got?
Yeah, you have that debate. Wide receiver in the 1st round or wait until the 2nd round. And for Washington, don't wait. Carnell Tate's there, take him. You want Jaden Daniels to revert back to that rookie form. You got a guy here who can catch the football on a regular basis, tremendously consistent. We know what kind of route runner he is. We know what kind of deep ball ability he has to track that ball down the field. And we know also he's going to be a great character and a great professional approach to your football team. So for Jaden Daniels, go to Ohio State. Very few of any fail at that spot. Then you look at Reuben Bain Jr. I debated pressure. Want to get Tyler Shuck some help at wide receiver. We can get that in the second round and the one down. I think they come away with maybe 2, maybe 3 receivers in this draft. But Bain's pass rush ability, can he translate it from college or thought about for the Saints? I gave him Bain. I went with Jordan Tyson to Kansas City. The only reason he's here is because of the durability concerns. But he is a beast. Could have been long gone by pick number 9. He's there because of that. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, they can get a corner late in round 1 and help that defense. But they get the wide receiver in Jordan Tyson. You can make a strong argument on talent, physically and athletically. He's the best overall, one of the best overall players in this draft.
Matt, as you often remind us, you live in Chiefs Kingdom territory. A lot of different directions the Chiefs could go at pick number 9. What do you make of the fit of Jordan Tyson at number 9, though?
I mean, I agree they need a receiver and they need a big-bodied receiver because Xavier Worthy hasn't emerged. Rashee Rice has durability questions, and then he has off-field questions. So receiver is a need. I find 9 to be way too rich for Jordan Tyson, who's missed 34% of Arizona State's games over the last 3 years. And the last time he was healthy, 2024, he had 8 drops. So yeah, to Mel's point, when he's healthy, he looks good. But availability is the best ability, and he is often not out there. So I think in Kansas City, if you were going to go receiver, I would push for Mekhi Lemon, who is my top receiver in this draft. But we also have to look at a team that who's the right tackle long term, because Jalen Moore's on a 1-year deal. Who's rushing the quarterback opposite George Karlaftis? Who's replacing Chris Jones, who's 32? Who's replacing Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, who are now with the Rams? Who's replacing Brian Cook at safety? This is a team that is devoid of talent so deeply throughout the entire roster. Let's not even get into tight end. I think Kansas City drafting what would maybe be a number 3 receiver if everyone's healthy at 9 is just way too rich for me.
Yeah, Matt, I agree. First of all, going back to Jordan Tyson, I see the talent as well, but when you really study it over 20 and 30 years in the history of the draft, typically when a player has the sort of durability issues that Jordan Tyson has, it doesn't get better when you get to the next level. Again, you're going to 17-game regular season, soft tissue injuries on a skilled player, so that would be a concern. And I go to the corner position in particular. Matt, you enumerated some other positions, but when you lose 3 corners the way they did, and they did sign Kader Kohu, I just think there's such an urgent need for a corner. Look, you can manufacture offense. We know good Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are. I think it's really hard to get to where you want to go ultimately when you're devoid of talent at corner.
We have cracked through the first 9 picks. Let's get to picks number 10 through 15, and that is where Mel has a run on offensive linemen. You see Mansour Delane at 10. Francis Maui Noah stays home. He goes to the Dolphins at 11. Caden Proctor goes to the Browns. A reminder, this is after the projected trade with Dallas. Kai Lemon stays home as well. He goes to the Rams. Spencer Fano goes to Mel's home in Baltimore. And Kenyon Sadiq, the dynamic tight end out of Oregon, goes to the Buccaneers. Mel, pick 16, the second time the Jets have made a selection. Who do you have them taking at 16?
Need a receiver, guys. In field 4, Garrett Wilson to get a little help there. And certainly I'm going to go to look at a guy like Omar Cooper, and I'm going to say, okay, I heard enough from Matt Miller, heard enough from Cooper Jr., but this is a mock draft, not a ratings board. Omar Cooper Jr. outstanding after the catch, made some big clutch receptions for Indiana, for Fernando Mendoza this year. I like the player. Like I said, I thought he was going to be a really good third. Thought, hey, he'll be a really good second. Now we're talking about 16 overall. Hey, I gave in after all was said and done to all the screaming and yelling saying I was underrating Omar Cooper Jr. I don't care about where I'm rated. This is a mock draft. I wouldn't take him this high. Do I think he'll go this high? That's what all you experts are telling me.
Well, one of those experts is, of course, Matt Miller, who is, I think, the self-proclaimed king of the Omar Cooper fan club. So your thoughts here on what has led to such a steady rise for him throughout the pre-draft process?
Yeah, I am the president of the fan club. My number 3 receiver, number 16 overall player. It's the total game. I think, again, once coaches got involved, they've fallen in love with the work ethic, the toughness over the middle of the field. We always see that great Penn State catch where he's getting pushed out of the end zone. It's the concentration, ball skills, and yards after catch. That's what Omar Cooper Jr. does. He can play in the slot like he did this past year, or you go back to 2024, he's playing move him inside, outside. So these offenses that like motion, pre-snap, that want that middle of the field weapon, they're going to love Omar Cooper Jr.
I agree. In terms of the player, 115 total catches, been in Indiana his whole career, tough, really good hands. I think this is where you got to consider Ty Simpson if you're the Jets from this standpoint. You have 3 ones next year. Obviously, you're not going to take a quarterback at number 2, but to me, you got to keep taking shots at getting your quarterback. I love the Geno Smith signing. I think he's a great stabilizing force. But if I'm the Jets, I strongly have to consider Ty Simpson. here at 16. And if I take Omar Cooper, I know we'll get to it about possibly trading up, but at some point the Jets have to identify and draft a young quarterback.
16 picks down. We are just 25% of the way through. So let's take a look at picks 17 through 29 on Mel's mock draft. And Mel, who's one guy that stands out to you from those picks 17 through 29?
Yeah, I think it's Dylan Thieneman. And Dylan Thieneman began his career at Purdue, ends up at Oregon. What does he do? He provides great versatility. You can move him all around in that secondary. He's built for today's NFL, the way it's played, and really smart. And for Brian Flores, you got to be that type of guy, intelligent, high football IQ to be able to get out there as a rookie. They're going to need him. This is a big need area. As a safety spot, cornerback spot, defensive tackle. They got some work to do on that side of the ball. Add a running back as well. But Dylan Thieneman, I think, is a great hole filler. We've had him there all along. I had no reason to change up and move him down. Dylan Thieneman at pick number 18, like I say, an outstanding safety to the Minnesota Vikings.
Mel, I loved your pick of Monroe Freeling. We're going to put him at, I presume, left tackle, although there's some discussion about do we flip Penei Sewell with Taylor Decker moving on. I love the fact they ran a 1.71.10 at 6'7", 315 pounds. This is a player that Field Yates has loved for a long time. I think he's a day one starter. It starts up front with the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, pick that surprised me, Mel. Peter Woods. I think everybody forgot about him. The defensive tackle from Clemson going 22 to the Chargers. And the surprise here is this is the first time I've seen Woods' name back in a mock draft in quite some time. We know about the athletic potential, but he hasn't had a ton of production. So he is one of the, I think, harder players to evaluate in this class because what are you going to get from him? Are you going to get the flashes or are you going to get some of the lack of consistency? This is a weak defensive tackle draft. Maybe that's what pushes Woods up into the first round.
Yeah, we'll see whether any defensive tackles do go in the first round. Mel has one that we just saw there in Peter Woods. We are not done. We still have more.
So Arizona, Mike LaFleur has talked to Rams like them. They don't have a late first round pick anymore. LaFleur came from the Rams to Arizona. You can handpick your quarterback, right? You're in a division with a Super Bowl winning Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and Brock Purdy. You need to figure that quarterback position out. You know the Jets could take him, jump ahead of the Jets. Miami needs that 65th pick. I think it's a good move for both teams, and Arizona gets a quarterback that comes in with the head coach, which is what I like, pairing head coach, handpicking his quarterback.
Pre-draft visits don't always foretell the story here, Mel, but of note, at least to me, on the final day that teams are allowed to have players in for what we call a pre-draft 30 visit. Who is in Arizona visiting the Cardinals? Ty Simpson. And from what I'm told, it's not just because he likes the Phoenix weather. There's, of course, a visit with the Cardinals will make all sorts of sense, at least in my eyes. But I want to ask you, Mike T. You saw the parameters of that deal. The Cardinals move up 4 spots to secure Ty Simpson. Is that the right call?
Absolutely. I love this idea by Mel. The 5th-year option is so hugely consequential with starting quarterbacks making $60 million and on up, especially when we get 3-4 years down the road, given the trends of the league. So we saw it last year with Jackson Dart being traded up by the Giants. A number of years ago, Lamar Jackson going 32 overall to the Baltimore Ravens. I think there'll be a little bit of an arms race between the Cardinals and the Jets, who are sitting there with 2 second-round picks. So if I'm Arizona, I may even have to be a little bit more aggressive. I really like Ty Simpson. I always have. I think he's a starter in this league. I think he's a combination of Brock Purdy, some Baker Mayfield in him, little underrated athleticism with a really good arm, little short on starts, which we all know of. But at this point in the draft, Arizona or the Jets trading up makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I don't hate this pick, and I know among the group I'm the Ty Simpson critic, but I don't get the sense that you have to jump the Jets. I think everything coming out of New Jersey is that the Jets are all in on 2027. So I guess I ask the question, Arizona, who are you jumping up for? If you don't have to worry about the Jets, are you jumping just to secure the 5th-year option? If that's the play, okay, 30 makes sense, 31 to the Patriots makes sense. If you're only trading up for that 5th-year option, I now understand it. But I don't think you have to jump the New York Jets because they've passed on this guy twice already, right? They've already said he's not good enough to be a starter for us. We're not taking him at 2. We're not taking him at 16. Okay, at 33, maybe they would consider him. I think Simpson in Arizona is a better fit than he is in a lot of other places. You have some established weapons. You have some established elements on the offensive line. You have some guys on defense that's going to keep this team relevant, but I'm still not sure that Ty Simpson is this franchise quarterback that we keep hearing he is because, as Mel mentioned, he declined over the course of the year, not inclined. Fernando Mendoza got better every week. Simpson got worse over the last 6.
Not comparing Lamar Jackson and Ty Simpson as prospects. They certainly played the position very differently, but I'm thinking about the Ravens trading back up to 32. I just don't know that you ever know for sure that a team is not going to take a player. So maybe that's why Arizona makes this jump. Let's get to the Dolphins side, though, Mike T. A team you know very well. Do you like this move by John Eric Sullivan?
Absolutely. When you look at what they've done so far, first-year head coach and Jeff Hafley, John Eric Sullivan, first-year GM, move on from Jalen Waddle, take the big cap charge on Tua. They're in the volume business this year, so if they move back in Mel's scenario, Jermari Bernard, I think it's going to be a chance to be a starter in this league. Maybe has some flexibility between playing inside and outside, but he's a productive player for the last 2 years for Alabama. So to me, I don't think he's Jalen Waddle by any stretch. I don't think he's nearly as explosive. But if he could come in and be a starter for them eventually, and they pick up a couple of extra picks, this is the right trade at the right time in terms of team building for the Miami Dolphins.
Mike, I know that Matt and Fielding don't remember 1984, but the Cincinnati Bengals took 3 players ahead of Boomer Esiason and then took them in the second round. So it has happened before, but they felt no need to take Boomer with 3 first-round picks, but took him in the second round. And by the way, a couple of those first-round picks end up being disappointments, but it has happened before. I know you don't remember way back. That was my first year at ESPN, actually. But to Jeremy Bernard, solid, consistent. You don't lose anything by moving down. Miami needs that wide receiver room to get some talent, right? They got to start building that up, and Jeremy Bernard, solid, reliable player, is a good place to start.
Okay, let's move on to the teams that have played in the Super Bowl this past season. We move all the way to 31 and 32. The Patriots and the Seahawks lost some notable players in free agency. For the Patriots, Stephon Diggs, who they've released, edge rusher Caleb Von Chason. Meanwhile, of course, the Seahawks lost Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP, to the Chiefs. So how do these teams fill in some of the holes on their roster? Mel?
Disrupt their fielding with New England. And that's a guy like Akeem Messidor. You think about the dynamic duo with Bain and Messidor, and I would have had him a little higher, but that Dallas trade at 20, if Dallas sits at 20, Messidor, Keldrick Falk, Zion, Messidor gets after the quarterback. You have a running back in Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. They had another really talented running back, and Jadarian Price. Jadarian Price attacks the line of scrimmage. He's a tackle breaker supreme. He's got to get more experience catching the football. He's got to eliminate those costly fumbles that happen at Notre Dame too often the last couple of years, but the bottom in 32. So nice value for a very talented running back, who also, by the way, is a really good kickoff returner.
2 Notre Dame running backs in the first round. If that happens, Notre Dame will be just the 3rd school in the last 30 years to have a pair of backs picked in the first round of the same draft. If you already knew this, bravo to you. Auburn in 2005, Arkansas in 2008 also accomplished this. So, Matt, you said at the top, hey, Mel has a running back going with the 4th overall pick. What year are we in? He is the 2nd one going 32nd overall. What are your thoughts on this one?
Kuiper, I don't even know who you are anymore. Next thing we know, he's not going to like pumpkin pie, and he's going to be a Royals fan like me. But I do agree. Jadarian Price could sneak into the late first round. This is the right area for him. I think you look at a couple other teams as well. What he brings in upside, Mel mentioned it. We didn't see him be a featured back. He saw 11 touchdowns last year, 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns. So the 1B to what they have in Zach Charbonnet, a lot like Kenneth Walker was. They said, hey, we don't need to pay a running back. We'll just draft one. And the weight price here, the next running back in this draft might come off the board quite a bit later. Probably Mike Washington from Arkansas will be the next guy.
Wow, just 2 running backs in the first round, Mike T. What do you make of that?
I would be stunning to see that. But I'll tell you what, if it works out well for John Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, because they let Kenneth Walker graduate, pay Jackson Smith and Jigba, maybe Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But that would be, we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, cornerback, guys, is another area. Late 2nd round, maybe a Malik Muhammad from Texas would be a possibility there. So cornerback's going to be in play. I think if Price is there, and I think he will be, then you wait till the 2nd round and get the corner.
Running backs, cornerbacks, quarterbacks. Mel is filling up the cup out there in Seattle. Newest mock draft. You see it in its entirety right there. There are 5 teams that at the moment will not be picking a week from Thursday in the first round. One of those teams is Green Bay, who traded away its first rounder as part of a deal that got the Micah Parsons. So, Mel, where do you see the Packers going with pick number 52?
I think cornerback is the biggest need of this Green Bay Packer football team. And you get a guy that we thought maybe through the old season into the process would be a late first-round pick, but he gets into the 2nd round. That's Avion Terrell from Clemson. Clemson Tigers, hey, things didn't go their way, but this kid was out there making plays. great savvy, great anticipation, great awareness. He is a true football player, and he understands how to play the game at a high level, football IQ through the roof. So you're hitting a guy here, and Matt can get the why, but sometimes, hey, guys can ding through the process. Sometimes they drop a little bit further than you expect based on all the mock drafts that were out in January and February. And here's Avion Terrell, with a cornerback being their major need, still on the board at this point in round 2.
All right, Matt, what do you make if they fall to 52 for Avion Terrell? Is that too low?
It might be too low, but Mel is right here. He is falling. A player that I thought late first round when we got to Mobile, late January for the Senior Bowl, he has been slipping. And it is wild to think that him getting injured, hamstring injury, running the 48ers Pro Day would cause this, because we have GPS data in season that shows how fast he is. But I don't think it's the 4-6 time with the injury. I think it's the injury in itself. The hamstring injury late in the process, that's what's causing him to fall. But as Mel said, he is an absolute dog. When you talk to coaches at Clemson, they love Avion Terrell, the way he competes, the way he fights for every rep, the way he runs through routes. So if he falls here, the Packers are getting a steal at number 52 with a starting level corner.
I like him, and when you see his competitive toughness, I think he profiles more as a nickel given his size.
Sure.
And the Packers, to me, absolutely could use a corner. So they lost Jeff Hafley, obviously a defensive coordinator, now the head coach of the Dolphins. I think Terrell could come in and play meaningful snaps year one at the slot corner. I, too, would be surprised if it fell this far.
Let's talk wide receivers, because wide receivers, this position is very deep in this year's class. The first one off the board is Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. Mel's wide receiver rankings, Jordan Tyson is first. He goes second, just behind Carnell Tate, but he also has 4 more receivers coming off the board in the second round. So, Mel, talk us through which of those 4 second-round selections amongst wide receivers stood out to you most.
I like Chris Brazel II. I've been talking about this kid all year, and I know I'm higher on him than most people. 4.37 40, and did it at Tulane and Tennessee. And his second round has been loaded with wide receivers that come into the NFL and play a lot better than round 2, play like first-rounders. Think about George Pickens and DK Metcalf and T. Higgins and A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams, and I can go on for 5, 6, 10 more that went in the second round who are doing really well in the NFL. Chris Brazel II, I think, will do exactly that. Be a heck of a pick and a steal for the Patriots late in round 2.
Now, I'm going to go with Zachariah Branch going to Pittsburgh. I love this pick. I think it really does the role where I think what they were hoping with Roman Wilson, who hasn't worked out thus far. Love this fit in round 2.
Yeah, one that really surprised me is Casey Concepcion falling all the way to 42, but I love the fit with the Saints. Get him in there opposite Chris Olave. Some of the speed that they've lost, that comes back on this offense. They need playmakers for Tyler Shuck. Give him guys that can help elevate his game as you're trying to decide if he's the future of this franchise or not. So Concepcion's ability to make things happen with the ball in his hands, he needs to get better as a route runner. That's the issue in his game. That's why he could be available here in the second round. But I think the Saints would love to have this type of impact and speed as their number 2 receiver.
As I have said many times before, I have a draftable grade on 42 wide receivers, the deepest position in this entire draft class. Let's take another look at Mel's full 2-round mock, with most teams making multiples. There's a lot of value to come away with. So, Matt, tell us who you believe had the best haul in the entirety of Mel's mock.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the Dallas Cowboys getting Sonny Styles in that trade up to number 6 overall. There's your impact defender. And then T.J. Parker to round out the edge as they move to this 3-4 defense. Now you have 2 players in the front 7, complemented with guys like Rashawn Gary, Quinnen Williams. Dallas needs difference makers on defense. The offense is good enough to go win a Super Bowl right now. This should be an almost all defense draft by Dallas. They started off right. This is a very impressive first and second round for them.
Mel, I thought you did a really good job with my old team, the New York Jets, starting with David Bailey, who to me profiles ironically a little bit like John Abraham in terms of his explosiveness. Omar Cooper, I think we're aligned there. He could come in and start opposite Garrett Wilson. C.J. Allen, a little bit worried about his stiffness, change of direction, but with this revamped defense lined up against next to Demario Davis, I think he'll be fine. And then Brandon Cisse could come in as a second-round corner and start for the Jets. As we know, they didn't have an interception last year. I think that would be really good value for them in the second round.
You know, Mel, I got to tell you, I didn't like any of these hauls. I think it's time for you to rip this mock up and do another one. And by the way, it's due by midnight tonight. I kid because I love. My actual favorite haul was the Cleveland Browns, who make 3 first-round picks following Mel's mock simulated trade, in which they land picks 12, and 20 in exchange for picks 6 and 39, which means they end up with Caden Proctor and Denzel Boston, along with Jermon McCoy, a calculated swing at the bat at pick number 24. There is a chance that with those picks, you get the best left tackle in the class in Caden Proctor and the best corner in the class in Jermon McCoy. Denzel Boston has become perhaps one of the most under-discussed, really solid players in the entire draft class, regardless of position. He may not have blazing speed, but he's got such good size, such reliable hands. He can play in the slot as well. 20 receiving touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. High character player, Mel. Nice job by you at the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think they will. The AFC North, really, and my Baltimore Ravens, they get Spencer Fano, who can play tackle or guard. And they need that guard to step in right away and be a hole filler. Could even play center possibly. And then you look at a guy in the second round to get an Eli Stowers, who has that ability to be a great pass-catching tight end, that H-back, move tight end. And he can go get the football for Lamar Jackson. So for the Ravens, and also I think the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike talked about, a guy like Zachariah branching around too, but get Vega Owane from Penn State, the guard who can step right in and fill that void. We have to see what happens at quarterback for the Steelers, but hit that guard who's plug and play, possibly a Pro Bowl caliber guard, then get the dynamic. That Zachariah Branch is also one heck of a return. And I thought the AFC North in general did a good job the way it worked out in these first round and second round mock.
Mel, obviously with 64 picks, you have more room to work with. But was there a player or players that you felt like you really wanted to get inside your 2-round mock draft that you couldn't quite find the room for?
No, it worked out great there. What my problem was, guys, was putting a player like Caleb Lomu, trying to find a spot for the left tackle from Utah. Couldn't do it because I gave the left tackle in the first round. Teams I thought I would give him the second. Looked at the left tackle spot and said, oh, they're okay. Dropped him down to Carolina. Didn't feel good about that. Metsador, late first round. Could have gone Falk or Zion Young, dropping down to the late first. Went with Metsador, so didn't feel great about that either. So there was a couple spots where you say, okay, am I a little too low? But you can't do it all. You're trying to fill needs. It's a puzzle, and you never feel good after those 2 rounds are completed because you always feel somebody's a little too low and maybe somebody's a little too high. But usually for me, it's a little too low, and some of those guys were.
Story time in the last 15 seconds. This is Mel's final mock draft. You know why? He doesn't want to do a mock draft the day of the NFL draft. You know who gets to do one instead? Me. This guy. I'm directing all my complaints to Kuiper Inc. NFL Draft Daily is back tomorrow. We'll see you then.